Now, Fran, you had said that you have not applied for a job since you were 18 years old.
Yes.
Every job has come to you and sought you out.
Correct.
When that happens, that indicates that you have leadership qualities that people want. How does that affect how you lead when you know you are wanted there?
I think that, in the first place, that's a very good question. So what is it? And I don't like to talk about myself, but since you've asked me that, there must be a reason. And I'd say, again, leadership shows many qualities, but it certainly does show a desire to get something accomplished. And to get it accomplished, you have to have people working together. But you have to have a cause first. You can't just do, I've seen people try to do strategic plans and long-range plans and so on. But you have to have a reason for doing all of it. And you can't just walk into a club, for example, and you have to have focus on what is your cause, what is your reason. I like it when the universities, for example, at the bottom of every email will have why this institution exists.
Their mission statement.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, Drake does have a mission statement at the bottom of each email that you get or that you send.
Can you get things done faster if you are brought in, people want you there, they vote for you there, and you have a mission? Do things go easily?
Not always.
Okay.
Karen, a
Yes.
little more to your left.
My chair.
No, you're good, yeah, in your
Okay.
chair. You're good.
Okay.
Is that better? Okay.
You want to ask me again?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we start over?
Kent, a little bit more to the right.
Okay.
Me? How about me?
You're perfect. We're revolving around you.
Okay.
This is Fran's world.
Friends world.
The only reason it's Fran's World is it's 5817 Fleet Landing Boulevard.
All right, we're good.
Okay. Do we start over? Or are we good?
No, we're good.
Okay. Okay.
No, we're good. Everything's going.
Okay. Yeah.
When you are brought into the job because people want you there, they've already voted you into the position, does that make it easier to get things done?
I think it makes it easier to develop your reason that you're there, your cause. And you have to have that. Whatever your mission is, whatever your mission statement is. I like it when I know precisely what it is I'm supposed to be doing. What am I giving? What is it they want from me? If you have that, it is much easier.
And how do you sustain that? How do you keep that drive going?
Get a lot of rest and then have enthusiasm. I'm afraid that's the only answer because you do have to sustain it. One of the things that I try to do is always introduce some new little thing, some exciting little project that is not, it may not even be in the strategic plan or the long-range plan. I've found lots of schools where I've gone in to evaluate their performances, a lot of the higher education. Many of them don't even have plans. Many of them don't have mission statements, which is astounding, really. But if you do have that, and you'll find CEOs have the same problem. They need to know what is the cause. What am I doing here?
What happens when you reach a level of frustration? How do you handle it?
You can be assured that you are going to reach a level of frustration. I think that's SOP. I think you have to know that somewhere you're going to have that level of frustration. And for me, I handle it in a lot of ways, but a lot of people couldn't do that. But I go to the piano and play. And when I play the piano, I found there's an outlet. Whatever your outlet is, do it. If you have an outlet that gives you an opportunity to get your mindset away from what it is and into something, another cause, another project, and then suddenly you come back and it's fresh and you feel like you're enthusiastic about it. I've had that experience when I can remember one meeting particularly. This was not at the university, but it was a club. And I can remember when there was it was actually an even vote on something. And we weren't moving either direction. And I said, okay, there happened to be a piano there. I'll sit down and we'll all sing. Whatever, if you recognize it, sing it with me. And we got back and suddenly there was no even vote the next time we got through. However, if you don't play the piano, there are other ways of doing it, believe me. You can sit down and have a a Pepsi together, or you can sit down and visit, or as I have some friends that do, and very successfully, and I do meditate as well. You can meditate. I've found this is very, very successful.
That's interesting. That must be the only rest you get sometimes is when you meditate.
It is.
I did want to ask you, what you're saying relates, I think, to any time, about compromise, what people think about compromise, because that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
About getting along, it's like, you know,
Well, sometimes it's imperative
what's imperative?
to compromise. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you convince them too. That if it's a good cause, if it's good, and I usually like good causes. I like to go for a good cause, and that's why I like fundraising. See, it's fun. It's really fun. It's not fundraising. It's fundraising, because if it's a cause that if you really like that cause, and you know that, I mean, it's exciting. But it has to be a good cause.
You also talked about different situations. For example, giving the speech at the club where they thought that it was Francis, the man, rather than Fran, the woman. And perhaps talking to the donor who just didn't like Jacksonville. But you managed to get around that, turn it into a positive situation at some point eventually, and actually become friends or maintain relationships. How did you do that?
Well, actually, with a little bit of humor, because I can remember my husband saying to me there had been other occasions when somebody thought that I was going to be a man, and I turned out to be a woman. And I remember saying to my husband, "Do you look at me that way?" And he said, "Fran, never worry. Nobody's going to think you're a man." But you know, in leadership, I do think it's important with leadership, because there were many times when people thought women couldn't lead, and that question was, proposed several times, and I thought, well, let's show them. It was interesting when I was vice president of the chamber. There had been many meetings that lasted so long, and I had somebody say to me, "Oh, now that we've got you as vice president of the chamber, we're probably going to be here 2 hours." And so I said, the very first meeting, we have hour meetings, and if you're in the middle of a sentence at the end of the hour, I'm going to interrupt and say we're leaving. And of course, nobody really believed it, but it happened on the first meeting. And I said, "Sorry, we're adjourning it." The hour is over.
Wow, I bet people borrowed that and took
They
it
loved it.
forward. Yeah.
We had the best attendance. We had the best attendance that year. It was amazing.
So it sounds like if you tell people how you're going to lead, what the mission is, and then follow through.
And follow through. It's imperative you follow through. If not, it's the same way with students. It's the same way with children. If you don't do what you're saying you're going to do, then they're not going to do what you say they should do. I mean, it's interesting. I was amused with the little sign of leadership when my husband taught leadership, so I knew that he was well aware of it. But when we were living in Germany, and we had no children, but because he was the commanding officer of this whole area of the American mayor of that sector, he also had the schools. So he was speaking at a PTA meeting one night, and he said, "Do you want to go and attend?" And I said, "Yes." I sat in the back row and listened to him, and I was amazed. But one of the amusing things he said, but it was very true, right along this line. He said, "Now, I don't have children, and you all have children, but there's one thing I can tell you. They're a lot like bird dogs." He said, I've always had 2 bird dogs, and my cardinal principle was, if I told those bird dogs to do anything, and I would, then they knew they were going to get punished if they didn't do it. But he said, I also learned something else, that if they did it and they didn't think I saw it, but I did, I better double the punishment, because that way they're going to know discipline. And of course, the men and women all laughed. And then afterwards, one of the women said to me, that's really true. It is. The same way with your meetings.
Wow. I know that through the years, women have come to you for advice on how to be leaders. on how to perhaps break whatever barrier they might be facing. And a lot of those barriers have been broken, but it really is only recently, in the past 10 or 15 years, that there have been a lot of women firsts, and of course you have been those. How about the younger women today who don't know that, who haven't lived through that? How do you let them know that it hasn't always been easy?
It's interesting that you bring this up, because I had an occasion when a young woman who had just received her bachelor's degree, 21 years old, and she came up to me, and she was always a very talented young woman, and sort of followed me around wherever I went. And she said to me, "Dr. Kinne, I've made my mind up what I'm going to do. I've decided that by 35, I'm going to be president of a university." And I said, "This is great. Now, you do remember that you have a path that you have to take in order to get there." "Oh, I know that," she said. "I know that. But I'm going to be there by 35. And I thought, well, bless your heart. If you can do it by 35, great. But there is a feeling among many of them of security, which is good, but also an unrealistic view of the path that you must take, whether it's today or whether it's 30 years ago. And that's, you better work. You're going to have to work. There is no other answer.
Yeah, no, period, yeah, you just have to work at it, yeah. No. go
Well,
ahead.
we were
Yeah.
talking earlier about something you hear a lot today is that maybe the younger people have a sense of entitlement. Do you see that?
Yes, that's everywhere. They do. There is a sense of entitlement. And again, it's this neglect that we may be guilty of this too, because we're providing everything. It's important to know every piece of the journey, and you can't skip any of it. Now, we do skip some of those things, but sometimes we're sorry for them if we skip them. There is no substitute for dedication and work. There really isn't. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care what your situation is. There is no substitute for work.
How does an effective leader deal with someone who he or she is leading who has that sense of entitlement?
My own experience with those who have that problem is that eventually the problem is going to halt them on their journey to being better and to being promoted. Usually they stumble. That's too bad, unless somebody catches them up in the meantime.
And they learn then?
If they don't have an IQ of 65, I think they're going to learn.
Okay.
I also wanted to ask you, why do you feel it's important for you to make contributions of your time to your community?
I don't think there's any question, or I don't think there's any choice. I think that if you belong to an area and you're taking from an area, and I don't care where you are, I think it's imperative that you participate in some way of giving to somebody else.
What are you most proud of? Accomplishments. Which accomplishment?
Well, let's see now. They asked Mark Twain that, and it was something like, "What am I going to accomplish tomorrow?"
Always looking for what's next, huh?
Yes, because I don't think, I don't look at them as accomplishments. I'm proud, I really am proud of a lot of the things that people worked with me on, because we were a team always, and I think that I am proud of the fact that I could get people to work together. That makes me very happy. But still doing it, still have to do it. I'm a happy person, and I'm just not, this is part of my philosophy. I'd rather not be around negative people. And Mayo recently did a study that shows that if we are happy and we continue to be happy. And that doesn't mean that you just pass off everything as being great because you face reality, but it's how your attitude, how you face it. And so their study showed that we might even live 10 years longer. Well, I'm already in that phase, I think.
Where do you find your happiness?
Oh, it's all around you all the time. You know, when I was a professor of humanities, I'd say it's great, you know, we'd traveled so much because my husband took me to China first as a bride, and the communists chased us out, and then we were in Japan for 3 years, and then we were in Germany for 4 years, and I loved every minute of it. But all around us, we have beauty, and all around us, with my humanities classes, and when I started, we didn't even have air conditioning in the room, and the little squirrels would come in and out, and even one time we even had a snake come in, but that wasn't beautiful. But I'm saying this because I would tell the people, look out. We have around us this amazing beauty right here in Jacksonville. It's great if you can go see the Parthenon in Greece. It's marvelous. And in humanities, I love to talk about these things and teach people, and I want them to see them, and I want them to travel. But that doesn't mean you can't express your feelings about all the world around you and the people around you. And that's very important too. When I was president of the university, I insisted I knew would need to know every student. We had around 3,000, and I did. Now, I didn't always know the first and the last names, but and this is important. We have this beauty around us in people and things, and we get bored with life. It amazes me when I hear somebody say, "I'm so bored." Wake up. It's all around us.
Is that a choice?
Oh, it is a choice. Yes, life is. Everything is a choice in life, and your attitude makes a difference. How you're going to face challenges, and I faced a lot of challenges. You know, I have no immediate family; they're all gone. That I've had people say to me, you know, how can you go through life without those things? And I said, because I have so many wonderful friends, and this all makes up for it.
What advice would you give to young people today?
I think it's very important for young people to have hope. And I think to realize how very important it is to keep a positive view on life. And no matter what the challenge is, know that there is something there for you. And that you have a DNA that nobody else has, which means no matter what age you are, you can do something no one else can do. So if you haven't found it yet, look for it. It's worth all the time you put in, whether it's in school or whether it's learning from somebody else or whether it's sometimes challenges that you bumble yourself, but there's always hope on the horizon.